April 30th, 1945. Deep beneath the shattered streets of Berlin, Adolf Hitler took his own life as the Third Reich collapsed around him. Outside, a devastating war was coming to an end. But this story doesn't begin here. It begins decades earlier with a rejected artist inspired by Charlie Chaplin, who also had a mustache like Charlie, a young soldier, and a nation left broken after World War I. This is the story of Adolf Hitler, and how a single man helped plunge the world into its darkest chapter. This is the rise and fall of Adolf Hitler.
Alles verantwortet von den Männern des November 1918.
In 1889, in a quiet Austrian town, a baby was born who would one day change the course of history. At an early age, there was nothing extraordinary about him: a strict father, a loving mother, and a young boy with one dream: to become an artist. But fortune had other plans when Vienna's Academy of Fine Arts rejected him, not once, but twice. Penniless and alone, he wandered the streets of Vienna, sleeping in homeless shelters and selling hand-painted postcards to survive. In a city consumed by poverty, anger, and political unrest, the beliefs that would later shape one of history's darkest chapters slowly began to take root. In 1914, Europe descended into chaos. As the First World War consumed the continent, millions of young men marched toward the battlefield. Among them was Adolf Hitler. Although born in Austria, he chose to fight for Germany. On the brutal Western Front, he served as a message runner. Every mission could have been his last. His bravery earned him the Iron Cross. But when the guns finally fell silent in 1918, Germany lay defeated, humiliated, and broken. For Hitler, the loss wasn't just a national tragedy, it was a personal catastrophe. Like countless embittered veterans, he became convinced that Germany had been betrayed from within. That belief was false, yet it would become the dangerous spark that ignited one of history's darkest chapters. The First World War was over, but Adolf Hitler's story was only beginning, and the world had no idea what was coming next. Germany wasn't just defeated, it was falling apart. Hyperinflation wiped out life savings overnight. Millions were unemployed. Hunger spread through the streets, and national humiliation turned into anger.
We cannot afford bread.
In the middle of that chaos, Adolf Hitler discovered something far more powerful than a weapon: his voice.
Aber mein Freund, ich hab die anderen genauso vernichtet. Sie sind
He joined a political movement, a little-known one called the Nazi Party. At first, almost nobody took it seriously, but when Hitler stepped onto the stage, everything changed. His speeches were fiery, emotional, and carefully crafted to channel fear, frustration, and resentment into political support.
Und wenn die Großkolonnen unsere Bewegung heute.
In 1923, convinced he could seize power by force, he launched the Beer Hall Putsch. It failed spectacularly. He was arrested, tried for treason, and sent to prison. For many politicians, that would have been the end. For Hitler, it was the beginning. Behind prison walls, he realized that bullets wouldn't bring him power, but ballots might. If he could win elections, dismantle democracy from within, and turn public anger into political power, he wouldn't need another coup. It was a strategy that would change Germany, and soon the world. The prison doors opened, and Adolf Hitler walked out with a plan far more dangerous than the one that had put him behind bars. By 1933, Adolf Hitler had become Chancellor of Germany. Rival political parties were banned. The press was brought under state control. Voices of dissent were silenced. Fear replaced debate. Propaganda replaced truth. What began as a political movement had become a totalitarian state, built on the machinery of control and the cult of a single leader. One man now stood at the height of absolute power. The world watched, but few understood what was coming within a few years. Decisions were already being made that would soon ignite the deadliest conflict in human history. The countdown to World War II had begun. September 1st, 1939. Hitler's invasion of Poland plunged Europe into the Second World War. What began as a military campaign soon escalated into the deadliest conflict in human history, claiming the lives of more than 60 million people. But the war itself was only part of the tragedy. Under the Nazi regime, 6 million Jewish men, women, and children were systematically murdered in the Holocaust. Millions of others, including Roma, disabled people, political prisoners, Soviet prisoners of war, and other persecuted groups, were also killed. The Holocaust remains one of the most thoroughly documented atrocities in history, a reminder of how hatred, propaganda, and unchecked power can lead to unimaginable human suffering. The world had entered its darkest chapter. Hitler's armies seemed unstoppable, and much of Europe lay under Nazi control. But history was already beginning to turn. The beginning of the end was closer than anyone could imagine. By 1945, the war Adolf Hitler had unleashed had turned decisively against him. The empire that once seemed unstoppable was collapsing on every front. His invasion of the Soviet Union had become one of history's greatest military disasters. Germany's armies were unprepared for the brutal Russian winter and relentless Soviet counteroffensives. Berlin became a city under siege. The capital of the Third Reich was reduced to smoke, fire, and rubble. Hitler's dream of a 1,000-year empire was crumbling after just 12 years. On April 30th, 1945, trapped inside a bunker beneath Berlin, Adolf Hitler took his own life. Just days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. In Europe, the guns finally fell silent. The Second World War had come to an end. Ironically, one of history's most feared dictators shared an unmistakable resemblance with one of the world's greatest comedians, Charlie Chaplin. In 1940, while Adolf Hitler's armies marched across Europe, Chaplin released The Great Dictator, using satire to mock the very man the world had begun to fear. It was proof that even in humanity's darkest moments, courage could take many forms.
Your Excellency!
Power itself is never good or evil. It is the choices behind that power that define a person's legacy. Adolf Hitler chose hatred over humanity, war over peace, and oppression over freedom. Under his regime, 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, alongside millions of other victims persecuted by the Nazi state. That is why history does not remember him as a hero or a visionary. It remembers him as the leader of a regime responsible for one of the darkest chapters in human history, a reminder of what can happen when prejudice, propaganda, and unchecked power replace compassion, truth, and justice. History cannot be changed, but it can be remembered, because the greatest tribute to those who were lost is ensuring that such horrors are never allowed to happen again. Never again.